All right, we have to get into what head coach of the Toronto Tempo, Sandy Brondello, had to say about Caitlin Clark. And all she did was utter the truth. So we have to get into
The entire basketball world held its collective breath when the inevitable finally happened, and one of the most respected, battle-tested minds in the game decided to completely break the unspoken silence surrounding the league's most polarizing rookie phenomenon. For months on end, fans and analysts alike had watched a quiet storm brewing behind the scenes, a strange and potent mixture of awe, resentment, and intense tactical warfare directed squarely at the Indiana Fever's newest superstar. But nobody in a position of real, unassailable power was willing to say the quiet part out loud until right now. Sandy Brondello, a legendary coach who has seen generations of elite talent come and go, and who currently navigates the intense complexities of a legitimate super team in New York, finally peeled back the heavy curtain on the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, and her shocking words exposed a harsh reality that the league office probably hoped would stay permanently buried under carefully crafted public relations statements. When a generational talent enters an established, fiercely proud ecosystem, it doesn't just ruffle a few feathers, it fundamentally threatens the entire hierarchy, forcing legends who have bled for the sport to either adapt immediately or get left behind in the dust of a terrifyingly fast new era. The initial narrative aggressively pushed by the mainstream media was that the veterans were just hazing the new kid, testing her mettle in a league globally recognized for its uncompromising, bruising physical toughness. But that wasn't the whole story, and the absolute truth hidden in the locker rooms, team flights, and private coaching circles was far more complicated, heavily layered, and deeply rooted in a decade of financial struggle. What most casual fans didn't realize as they tuned in by the millions was that the arrival of this particular rookie wasn't just a unique challenge on the hardwood. It was a seismic disruption of the financial and political fabric of the entire game, completely altering the power dynamics overnight. You had players who had grinded for a decade, fighting tooth and nail for charter flights, basic media coverage, and a living wage, suddenly watching a 22-year-old step into the blinding spotlight with multi-million-dollar brand deals and a signature shoe contract that eclipsed the salary cap of an entire franchise roster. Coaches like Brondello, who are tasked with managing the incredibly delicate egos of veteran superstars who built the very foundation of the league, found themselves in an impossible, high-stakes position, suddenly tasked with neutralizing the exact player who was essentially paying everyone's future salaries through unprecedented, record-shattering viewership spikes and sold-out arenas across the country. The defensive strategy early on was abundantly clear across the entire league. Isolate her, break her rhythm, put her in the dirt, and send an undeniable message that college highlight reels do not translate to the professional hardwood without a brutal, unforgiving learning curve that breaks most players. Scouting reports from top-tier organizations heavily focused on completely suffocating her airspace, aggressively trapping her at half-court with elite perimeter defenders, and practically daring the rest of the Fever roster to step up and make a play in a chaotic 4-on-3 situation. Opposing teams and their highly paid coaching staffs knew that if they could disrupt the rapidly developing chemistry between the rookie and her highly skilled front-court partner Aaliyah Boston, the entire offensive system would collapse under the immense, suffocating pressure. It was a calculated, ruthless blueprint explicitly designed to expose her perceived defensive liabilities, exploit her slight frame, and force her into high-turnover, low-efficiency games, proving to the world that she wasn't quite ready for the heavy crown the media had prematurely placed on her head. But the master plan completely failed to account for how quickly the game tape would change, and what happened next would catch the entire league, including the most seasoned strategists, completely off guard and scrambling for answers. As the grueling season ground on, the intense physicality directed at the rookie became impossible for the mainstream sports world to ignore, sparking massive viral debates across every major network about targeted harassment, professional jealousy, and the dark side of competitive sports. Hard screens that aggressively bordered on blindside hits, constant and uncalled hand-checking all the way down the full length of the court, and dangerous close-outs on her jump shots became the nightly, expected standard, leaving fans and pundits wondering if coaches were secretly greenlighting a more vicious, borderline reckless style of play just for her to see if she would finally crack. Brondello, widely known for her sharp defensive mind and tactical brilliance, watched her own elite squad engage in these high-stakes, incredibly physical matchups, knowing exactly the kind of relentless, exhausting pressure it takes to rattle a sharpshooter of that historic, game-breaking caliber. But behind closed doors, in the hushed conversations among the elite coaching fraternity, the tone was allegedly shifting from sheer aggression to a creeping, undeniable sense of panic as they realized their best-laid plans were slowly but surely failing to keep her contained. They were throwing the absolute best, most decorated perimeter defenders on earth at her, double-teaming her 30 feet from the basket, denying her the ball with face-guarding techniques rarely seen outside of a grueling playoff series. And she was still finding jaw-dropping ways to thread impossible passes and hit logo shots that completely broke the opposing team's spirit. The turning point for the coaching world wasn't just the sheer volume of her scoring. It was the terrifying realization that she was actively learning the complex cheat codes to the professional game in real time, adapting to the speed, length, and strength of veterans who had a 10-year head start on her. The popular narrative that she was just a high-volume shooter with a permanent green light quickly evaporated when seasoned coaches realized her elite court vision was systematically dissecting their carefully crafted defensive schemes, effortlessly turning aggressive traps into easy, wide-open buckets for her teammates who were finally starting to catch her lightning-fast passes. Yet even as her game rapidly adapted and she began to rewrite the rookie record books on a weekly basis, a massive, controversial shadow loomed over her historic campaign, and the next scandal would send shockwaves far beyond the boundaries of the basketball court and straight into the mainstream news cycle. The highly anticipated Olympic roster announcement dropped like an absolute bomb on the sports world, and the sheer chaos that immediately followed exposed the deep-rooted, heavily guarded politics that govern the highest levels of international basketball, leaving the most popular, economically influential player on the planet off the national team during a year of unprecedented, explosive growth was a shocking decision that completely baffled marketing executives, enraged millions of new fans, and dominated the daily news cycle for weeks on end with endless speculation. Whispers immediately began circulating through the grapevine about heavy veteran influence, silent ultimatums delivered in private closed-door meetings, and a deliberate, coordinated move by the old guard to make the rookie wait her turn on the global stage, regardless of her undeniable talent and massive drawing power. Coaches and committee members were suddenly caught in a brutal, unforgiving crossfire, forced to publicly defend a roster built strictly on legacy, tenure, and existing chemistry, while actively, almost stubbornly ignoring the massive cultural and economic wave crashing into their sport and demanding immediate attention. The official reasoning repeatedly cited a lack of international experience and the brutal, highly physical style of FIBA play. But anyone paying close attention to the back-channel rumors knew the unspoken truth. Bringing her to Paris meant bringing the massive media circus, the intense, unrelenting scrutiny, and a potentially massive distraction for the established veterans who demanded the spotlight for their supposed final run at gold. Brondello, deeply entrenched in the international basketball scene as a legendary national team coach herself, watched this complex geopolitical sports drama unfold from a highly unique vantage point. Fully understanding the incredibly delicate balance between honoring seasoned, proven champions and capitalizing on a once-in-a-lifetime marketing phenomenon that could instantly elevate the entire sport to unprecedented heights. It was a stark, sobering reminder that transcendent talent alone doesn't instantly grant you VIP access to the most exclusive, heavily guarded club in women's basketball. You absolutely have to survive the political gauntlet of established power brokers and gatekeepers first. But the shocking snub, rather than breaking her spirit, causing her to shrink from the immense pressure, or sending her into a downward spiral, seemed to ignite something far more dangerous inside her. And the rest of the league was about to pay the ultimate price during the highly anticipated second half of the season. When the league finally returned from the long Olympic break, the rookie embarked on a historic, ruthless revenge tour that systematically dismantled every single defensive narrative that had been weaponized against her, forcing the entire basketball establishment to collectively eat their words. She began breaking single-game assist records with absolute surgical precision, carving up elite defenses by manipulating pick-and-roll coverages with a level of mastery and patience usually reserved for 10-year point guard veterans who had seen every scheme in the book. Teams that previously relied on aggressive blitzing to force the ball out of her hands suddenly found themselves utterly exposed as she consistently made the perfect split-second read, hitting rim runners in perfect stride, or finding deadly shooters in the weak-side corners before the defense could even attempt to rotate and cover the gaping holes. The physical intimidation tactics that defined the brutal early months of the season simply stopped working entirely. She had completely adjusted her conditioning, learned exactly how to absorb the relentless contact, and started cleverly utilizing the referee's whistles to her absolute advantage, frustrating the very veterans who genuinely thought they could bully her out of the league with cheap shots. It was during this breathtaking, undeniable stretch of sheer dominance that Sandy Brondello finally stepped up to the microphone and offered her unfiltered, shockingly honest perspective. And the tone had dramatically shifted from the cautious, heavily guarded statements of the early season to something surprisingly transparent and deeply revealing. She openly acknowledged the absolute absurdity of the pressure placed on the rookie's shoulders, a crushing, suffocating weight of expectation that no first-year player in the entire history of the sport should ever have to carry, while simultaneously acting as the league's primary economic engine and public face. The profound truth she spoke wasn't just about the undeniable generational skill set, the limitless shooting range that stretched past the logo, the elite processing speed that mirrored a chess grandmaster, or the mind-boggling passing accuracy that routinely went viral on social media. It was about the sheer, unwavering mental endurance required to face down a league full of highly motivated assassins every single night and still produce historic, record-breaking numbers. Brondello subtly but clearly pointed out that the initial fierce resistance wasn't just blind hatred or petty jealousy, as the internet claimed. It was a fiercely protective, deeply ingrained instinct from a league that has fought tooth and nail in empty arenas for every single ounce of respect and financial stability it has ever achieved over the last quarter-century. The seasoned veterans desperately wanted to know if the new, highly marketed face of their game was genuinely tough enough to handle the harsh, unforgiving reality of the trenches, or if she was just a manufactured, fragile product of mainstream media hype designed by corporate executives to sell shoes and television subscriptions to casual observers. By publicly acknowledging the rookie's incredible resilience, undisputed work ethic, and undeniable mastery of the professional game, Brondello essentially signaled a massive, historic changing of the guard, a reluctant but entirely genuine admission from the highest levels of the coaching elite that the hype was entirely real and the landscape of the sport had permanently, irrevocably shifted overnight. This wasn't just another great player entering the league and putting up impressive statistics on a lottery team. It was a highly lucrative, completely unstoppable disruption that was rapidly elevating the financial ceiling, securing billion-dollar television rights deals that were previously unimaginable, and changing the long-term trajectory of the sport for everyone, whether the proud old guard liked the catalyst or not. The undeniable, crystal-clear reality that emerged from Brondello's exceptionally candid revelation is that the exhausting era of gatekeeping is officially, permanently over, and those who stubbornly refuse to adapt their defensive schemes, their mindset, and their egos to the terrifying new speed, skill, and sheer magnitude of the game will simply become a forgotten, bitter footnote in her incredible, rapidly unfolding story that is captivating the entire globe. The entire basketball world held its collective breath when the inevitable finally happened, and one of the most respected, battle-tested minds in the game decided to completely break the unspoken silence surrounding the league's most polarizing rookie phenomenon. For months on end, fans and analysts alike had watched a quiet storm brewing behind the scenes, a strange and potent mixture of awe, resentment, and intense tactical warfare directed squarely at the Indiana Fever's newest superstar. But nobody in a position of real, unassailable power was willing to say the quiet part out loud until right now. Sandy Brondello, a legendary coach who has seen generations of elite talent come and go, and who currently navigates the intense complexities of a legitimate super team in New York, finally peeled back the heavy curtain on the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, and her shocking words exposed a harsh reality that the league office probably hoped would stay permanently buried under carefully crafted public relations statements. When a generational talent enters an established, fiercely proud ecosystem, it doesn't just ruffle a few feathers. It fundamentally threatens the entire hierarchy, forcing legends who have bled for the sport to either adapt immediately or get left behind in the dust of a terrifyingly fast new era. The initial narrative aggressively pushed by the mainstream media was that the veterans were just hazing the new kid, testing her mettle in a league globally recognized for its uncompromising, bruising physical toughness. But that wasn't the whole story, and the absolute truth hidden in the locker rooms, team flights, and private coaching circles was far more complicated, heavily layered, and deeply rooted in a decade of financial struggle. What most casual fans didn't realize as they tuned in by the millions was that the arrival of this particular rookie wasn't just a unique challenge on the hardwood. It was a seismic disruption of the financial and political fabric of the entire game, completely altering the power dynamics overnight. You had players who had grinded for a decade, fighting tooth and nail for charter flights, basic media coverage, and a living wage, suddenly watching a 22-year-old step into the blinding spotlight with multi-million-dollar brand deals and a signature shoe contract that eclipsed the salary cap of an entire franchise roster. Coaches like Brondello, who are tasked with managing the incredibly delicate egos